Damas y caballeros, chicos y chicas, niños de todas las edades, bienvenidos al Blower Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon, con el pensamiento correcto de un cerebro izquierdo, haciendo el trabajo que los American Media Maggots no hacen, operando detrás de las líneas enemigas de la California ocupada, en vivo y en directo, desde Estudio 23. De la vasta, rica, voluminosa y detestable SHR Media Network. Aquí está la mayor decepción de SHR, el Zeppelin Bloviating.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass.
I sure have.
All out of bubble.
Oh, welcome. Guess who? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Belly up to the bar, we've kept you seated. It's great to see you back. Today is Thursday. It's October the 12th, one day before Friday the 13th, the year of our Lord 2017. Snowball is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted. It's to my left, your right, if you happen to be watching. Watching, did I say? Yes, I did. Watching. Where would you be watching? Well, you might be watching on YouTube, on the SHR Media channel on YouTube. Go there now, quick like a bunny. Or you could go to the SHR Media Facebook page and watch on Facebook Live. Or you could go to the LoneStarNews.com and then from there go to Lone Star TV. Count them, 3 places in which to watch. Or you could just go to shrmedia.com and listen to me there on Spreaker. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the damn toilet, just like I did about 3 minutes ago. Some things are best. Anyway, jiggle the handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Well, good news, bad news. The bad news is, unfortunately, that the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, will not be here tonight. He's not feeling too well. He's kind of under the weather. So in lieu of Dr. Jones, there's me. And then after me, there's me. And then after that, there's just more of me. Buttery goodness of me, by me, for the next 2 hours. So buckle up, sit down, grab your favorite beverage. I can't drink on the air right now because I'm actually on duty. And unfortunately, though I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied Fornicalia, what I call California, because it fornicates or fucks up everything in which California comes in contact, as you already well surely know, we are less than 3 miles away from the veritable belly of the beast, the Bill Mill, the actual state capital, Sacramento, Fornicalia. Yes, we are that close. It's shocking. It's frightening. As I said, find your favorite chair, sit down, take a breath. Namaste. Namaste. Center. Center, little one. You must be centered. Whew. Okay, in chat, it looks like we have Dave Milner. Good to see you there, Dave. And unfortunately, like I said, we don't have the underground professor tonight. We do have a really good article that I found in Imprimus, which is a publication of Hillsdale College. And if you go over to the Hillsdale College website, you can sign up for Imprimus for free. We used to have a commercial here about Imprimus. And it comes, well, here, look. I can't see it right now, but it looks like this. So you can see it says Imprimus on top, and it's kind of vertically oriented. And it comes from Hillsdale College. And the best part, great writing, and it's free. Oh, did I say free? As a matter of fact, yes, I did. I did, in fact, say free. So one of the things I want to tell you up front is this is going to be my last show for a while. And it's not because of any of my particular doing. It's because certain things have come up, and I just need to attend to them. So I'm not going to be around all next week. I may attempt to call into the Sackheads radio show on Wednesday, but I'm going to be otherwise occupied with other things. And so the Tuesday show and the Thursday show are not going to occur, and I will be back the very next week, which I think is the week of Halloween, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll be back for that show Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. I'll be there. You can count on me. But every once in a while, things happen. You just have to take care of some things, or you go on vacation, or you drink heavily. But that's okay. That's what I do at the end of every show, and everybody already knows that. So that's nothing new. What I like to do is I'd like to start out tonight with something similar to this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Happy stories and good times. Do we have a happy story? I think we do. It's called No Pomegranates. and at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, BZ, pomegranates, that's the last thing I was thinking of today, essentially. Yeah, okay, what happens is I love it when leftist teachers go berserk, and moreover, they totally collapse, and they implode in class. So what we have is a video that I'm going to play, which the audio was gorgeous. You don't even need the video, hell with the video. Just listen to what is said. This is, I discovered, and by the way, this has gone abso-damn-lutely viral. Completely viral. What we have here is Des Moines Area Community College psychology professor, stop, that's a clue right there, psychology professor, Jane Martino, as she implodes in class so gloriously yesterday. Her rant was captured, and it was literally sent around the planet, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, who knows, but anyway, it's grand, so watch and listen.
Pomegranates. Come on.
She's waiting for a response from the class. No pomegranates. Wait, I'm sorry, we have to hear that again, because it's so definitive.
No pomegranates. Come on. No pomegranates. No pomegranates. No pomegranates. None. I don't want them anywhere near here. Am I clear? Say the rule again. No pomegranates. Say it. No pomegranates.
That's not fake laughter. That's actual real laughter from BZ, because some of this stuff is so insane. All right, I got it from Twitter, I got it from social media, all that kind of stuff. So people are asking, okay, why the hell is a psychology professor, instructor, educator, whatever the hell you want to call them these days, why is she screaming about pomegranates? And actually, it's a very good question, and it's one that I don't think anybody has actually answered yet, though at this point, with this kind of a display, you have to ask yourself, does it really matter? The entertainment quotient, if nothing else, is absolutely grand, even though you could properly ask, okay, what is the nexus, though, between psychology and pomegranates? Is it because they both start with a P? I don't know, maybe that's it. But so I went around on the internet, and I'm sorry, I cannot pass up some of the comments that I found about this video on the internet, and some of them go like this. The chairs they sit in look comfy as fuck. What school has chairs like this? Looks like they're going over the rules of class. Rule number 1 must be no pomegranates. Another one says, K, wait, are pomegranates allowed or not? I think the only way, this is another comment, I think the only way to know for certain is to bring a large sack of pomegranates to the next class. Another one says, 1 for each student. Remember, if you're going to share, you have to have enough for everyone. Another comment says, I'm still a little unclear on this rule. Are pomegranates allowed? Another one says, man, fuck yeah, fuck that. I'd yell, yes, pomegranates. And another guy came up with his very own list. It's a back-to-school list. And it says pencils, check. Notebooks, check. Pomegranates, there's an X through it. Backpack, check. Erasers, check. Pomegranates, there's an X through that. Pomegranates, there's an X through that one. And somebody said, what if the pomegranates are peeled already? And somebody else said, someone jeopardized their life to make that video. And somebody else said, I'd have a huge bag of pomegranates on her desk the very next morning. And another one said, hopefully her 50 cats will calm her down when she gets home. And another one said, this is probably a parent, said, those kids are going into debt for that shit. And another one says, this is great, no wire hangers. That's a movie reference. Look it up. Then another one says, molding the minds of America's youth, one batshit crazy rant at a time. Well, if you want to hear a batshit crazy rant, Big Sarge, Robert Brandt, has a show on, and it used to be called Moab Radio. And it's these days it's called The Big Sarge Show, and if you don't listen to it, you really should, because we're doing our best to invite him over to the SHR Media Network. And he very well may, but one of his friends who lives in Australia made a parody of Antifa, and this is what it sounds like, and this was created in Australia. Not like I have anything that I know about that at all.
Welcome to Antifa Down Under. Keep up the fight. I am Comrade Clueless Koala.
Clueless Koala, by the way, is holding a rifle, and he's masked, and he's wearing glasses, and it looks like he's in some kind of a warehouse somewhere. Very scary.
Some helpful tips in fighting the fascists.
Ooh, good. I need to hear.
Get extra pocket money off your parents.
Ooh, good. Yes.
Make sure you have the latest updates on Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo.
Oh, don't forget Nintendo. Very important.
Store your Nerf bullets in a cool place.
Oh, you forgot dry. A cool, dry place.
Don't let your mother find them.
Oh, God, yes.
Keep them with your Playboy magazines.
Oh, wow.
In a hidden spot.
Well, yes, hidden. Hell
That
yeah.
way, when you need your ammo, it's always with you.
Good point. Yep.
Make sure you have water.
Water. Mm-hmm.
Band-aids.
Band-aids.
Maybe some antiseptic.
You could get an owie.
You could get a nasty cut.
See?
While fighting the fascists.
Right.
These are helpful hints to survive.
Okay.
Being a member of Antifa. We rule.
Right on.
From
Excellent.
Comrade Clueless Koala.
Clueless Koala.
Take the fight.
Those are great, great things to know about. Clueless Koala. But wait, what happens? What's actually building these days? There's a scene out of a movie called Pool Hall Junkies. And it was aimed at a certain particular audience. And I want you to, after listening to this, I want you to ask yourself, these days, right now, who is the lion? Because this is an awesome speech.
You watch those nature documentaries on the cable?
Yeah.
You see the one about lions?
Yeah.
Get this lion. He's the king of the jungle. Huge mane out there. He's laying down under a tree in the middle of Africa. He's so big. He's so hot. He doesn't want to move. Now, the little lion cubs, they start messing with him. By biting his tail, biting his ears. He doesn't do anything. The lioness, she starts messing with him, coming over, making trouble. Still, nothing. Now, the other animals, they notice this, and they start to move in. The jackals, hyenas, they're barking at him, laughing at him. They nip his toes and eat the food that's in his domain. They do this, and they get closer and closer and bolder, till one day, that lion gets up and tears the shit out of everybody, runs like the wind, eats everything in his path. Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
Who's the lion? Who's the jackals? I ask that of you right now. And to the people on the left, Antifa, etc., the people that are pushing. Who's the lion? I submit the lion is the American taxpayer, the one who foots the bill for everything, who doesn't just foot the bill for this nation. The American taxpayer is the one who foots the bill for the UN, other countries, countries that want to kill us, countries that hate us, countries that are attempting to invade us. And they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And sometimes, sooner or later, you're going to start to get a reaction. Stop. Here's a reaction, and it's one from the Los Angeles Times, and it just occurred today. U.S. quits UNESCO, the UN's educational and cultural agency. Israel immediately follows suit. And I think, quite frankly, that's a wonderful thing. Citing what it described as anti-Israel bias and a need for fundamental reform, the United States announced today, Thursday, that it would withdraw from the United Nations agency that works to protect cultural and natural heritage sites across the globe. Okay, fine, except Israel has apparently followed suit, with media reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has instructed the foreign ministry to begin the process of pulling out of the UN. Here's what UNESCO stands for: the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. That's its acronym. Danny Danon, Israel's permanent representative to the UN, hailed the development in a tweet Thursday, saying it shows, quote, there is a price to pay for discrimination against Israel. Now, the U.S. pullout, part of a, quote, long and deliberate process that predated the Trump administration, would take effect December 31st, 2018, according to Heather Nauert, a State Department resolution. Now, in 2011, this is the crux of the biscuit, you see. In 2011, after UNESCO voted to grant full membership to a Palestinian state, the U.S. stopped funding the Paris-based organization. Well, there's one of the clues. That's one of the reasons that your cat's stuck in your toilet. It's based out of Paris. Oh, stop just for a second. Let's do a bit of historical thinking, and I'm pausing and doing this because I'm a conservative, not necessarily a Republican. Well, quite frankly, I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative and partial libertarian. But let's see, in 2011, when we stopped throwing money at UNESCO, because that's what happened, who was in office in 2011? Oh, that's right, Barack Hussein Obama. So it was Barack Hussein Obama who stopped the cash. And this is interesting. This is, in a sense, the end point of a road that we've been on for quite some time. That is an uneasy relationship with UNESCO, and especially an uneasy relationship around how it connects to the Israel-Palestine conflict, said Cal Rustiala, a law professor and director of the Berkeley Center for International Relations at UCLA. Obviously, we are a huge part of UNESCO's contributions, and symbolically it's unfortunate. Unfortunate, he said. Unfortunate. UNESCO is a politicized organization, like any UN agency. But I think this feeds the perception that it is especially ideological. It's not going to derail UNESCO entirely, but it's meaningful because we are a huge contributor of funds and of legitimacy. In other words, putting your money where your mouth is, and in some cases, when necessary, pulling money when required. Why do you fund people? Why are we, you, me, American taxpayers, the lion? Why are we funding terrorist organizations, terrorists who live in, quote, Palestine? You know, those people that throw rockets over at Israel, the only free country in the entire Middle East, the only semi-democratic republic in the Middle East, the only civilized country in the Middle East, because it's fun to do and Israel doesn't shoot back all that much anyway. So that's what happened, and I think it's a wonderful thing. Now, as we know, some actions have consequences. Do we not? Yes, of course we know that. Hey, there's one right there. Now, you may or may not have realized that earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, Jerry Brown, dementia-ridden Jerry Brown, signed an order saying that the entire state of California was now going to be a sanctuary state. Huzzah, huzzah, this is nothing more than leftists putting their mouths where their money is. And all the leftists all across California, Fornicalia, went, "Ooh, yes, great idea, excellent idea." Well, then the California sheriffs came up and they had an opinion on that. Now, this is very interesting, and I want to point out the difference. This is an organization of California sheriffs. Now, this is not an organization of California police chiefs, and I'm going to tell you why that's significant. But this article is from the WashingtonFreeBeacon.com. If you're not reading the Washington Free Beacon, you really should. You are doing yourself a bit of a disservice. Now, the headline in the Washington Free Beacon is this: California sheriffs, again, note the difference, California sheriffs call on Congress to stop their sanctuary state. Law enforcement. New law could provide safe harbor to MS-13. Really? No. Yeah, leftists, you know, MS-13 wouldn't take advantage of something like this, would they? Well, maybe we didn't think about that, but we didn't mean it. We didn't mean for them to take advantage of it, so everything is well and good. California sheriffs are calling on the GOP-controlled Congress in Washington to intervene and pass a federal law to change the state's sanctuary state status, warning the law that ties their hands too tightly will only increase the chances of another high-profile tragedy. Consequences. One thing leads to another, which leads to another, etc. Decisions have consequences. Well, hell, we already know that as of 2016, elections have consequences, do they not, on November 8th? Leftists simply, at this point, cannot get over that singular consequence. They have not yet stepped into the morning of November 9th. We all know that's true. The sanctuary state law, which Governor Jerry Brown signed Thursday, he signed it Thursday, today. No, wait, back up a little bit. Thursday last week, that's what it was. But doesn't go into effect until January 2018, is the most far-reaching of its kind in the country and places sharp limits on how local law enforcement agencies can communicate with federal immigration authorities. It would also make it a crime to enforce federal immigration laws on the premises of all schools, hospitals, libraries, and courthouses in state, which is home to an estimated 2 million immigrants. Stop. That's a state law, right? Who is unaffected by state laws? I think you have your answer to that one. Do you possibly see maybe a little bit of a kerfuffle coming, maybe a little bit of a clash? Making the entire state a sanctuary for illegal immigrants is California's latest salvo in its war with, and make no mistake, it is in fact that. It is a war with President Donald Trump over immigration policy, but law enforcement officials say it's the state's citizens who will pay the price with higher crime rates and avoidable tragedies. Stop. Absolutely avoidable tragedies. I hate to point this out because it sounds like a broken record, because it's, unfortunately, this case is the poster child for stupid. And it's the poster child for, yeah, let's get some people killed. Will we? Shall we? Yes, certainly, we have. Kate Steinle died in her father's arms, saying, help me, Dad, on a municipal pier in the city of San Francisco, after having been shot from an illegal Mexican who had been deported not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times. And why was he still there? 2 reasons. Number 1, he knew that San Francisco as a sanctuary city would do nothing with him. And number 2, he was absolutely correct, because at that time, Sheriff Murakami, oh, and that's a wonderful name, that was actually his name at the time, had a policy in the in the San Francisco Sheriff's Department where people who were illegal, federal authorities were not to be notified upon release. So this guy was released out into the ozone. Bing! There's the door. We don't care if you have a hold. We don't care what ICE says. We don't care about a federal detainer. Screw 'em. You're gone. You're free. Be on your way, sir. Be on your way. Do what you will. And so he did what he will. And he decided that that day it was okay if he killed Kate Steinle. National Sheriff's Association Executive Director and CEO Jonathan Thompson said Thursday that sheriffs across the country are deeply saddened and disappointed that the governor signed this reckless bill into law. Quote, it is unfortunate that California's law enforcement has become pawns in this political game, but they will continue to do their jobs diligently to protect their communities, he said. We also implore leaders in Washington to take action and pass sensible legislation that would prevent careless legislation from hamstringing law enforcement and would give them the tools to combat dangerous policies, just like this one. Most of the state's sheriffs argue that the law limits their ability to remove dangerous, meaning criminal, repeat offenders from their communities. Let's see, who falls into that? Maybe gangs, maybe MS-13. Wow, didn't see that one coming. They remain concerned despite late changes that Governor Brown helped negotiate that would grant police the ability to inform Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE officials, of violent felons police have taken into custody. Sheriff said the law would prevent police from notifying ICE of self-admitted members of MS-13 or other gangs if they were arrested for misdemeanor crimes such as assault and battery. Depending upon the extent, in California, assault and battery can in fact be a misdemeanor, 242 PC. Possession of narcotics, which is being decriminalized all across Fornicalia. Being under the influence of narcotics, which is decriminalized all across California. Or driving without a license. Wait, isn't it the state of California that's going to give illegals licenses? Yeah, it's the motor voter law. So we're going to give you a license, and when you sign up for a license, we're going to register you to vote. Now, do you think that the feds have something in place for this? Remember I said consequences? Let's address those consequences when we come right back. You are listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It's Thursday, October the 12th, the year of our Lord 2017. Come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic, stupid crap.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is, in fact, the SHR Media Network. You can watch us live, live, on Lone Star TV, on the SHR Media Facebook page, and on the SHR channel on YouTube. Live and direct. We were talking about some of the consequences of being silly and stupid and fattening. And we know that recently the state of California decided that it was going to make the entire state a sanctuary state. And I was talking about consequences because frequently leftists don't think things through. I know that's a shock to most of you. And I was talking about how the California Sheriff's Association and other sheriffs have decided that it's time to go to D.C. to see if we can get them to implement some sanity with regard to sanctuary states, like specifically California. Sheriffs said the law would prevent police from notifying ICE of self-admitted members of MS-13 or other gangs if they are arrested for misdemeanor crimes. If a gang member is arrested or charged with a misdemeanor or felony, that is not covered by the law. We would be precluded from contacting ICE. California State Sheriff's Association President Bill Brown told the Washington Free Beacon. This article is from the Washington Free Beacon. My concern is that statewide we're going to have this issue, that you end up with a known gang member in custody for a particular crime that is not covered, and we would not be able to make that notification because this proscribes law enforcement from making those notifications. In other words, a law enforcement officer, or essentially anyone, making a phone call to the feds to say that there is a particular individual incarcerated, you need to come pick him up and you ought to slap a hold and a detainer on him, that would be a crime. Police also worried that the law is too light on illegal immigrants who've been arrested for drunk driving. Stop. In the 80s, and true then, true now, the greatest number of people, let me go back for a little bit. In the 80s, when I was working the jails in the department I used to work for, The greatest number of what they call deuce arrests, that's drunk driving arrests, occurred where in California? Southern California? Los Angeles? Hands? No. Sacramento. Sacramento, California, the capital. And the greatest number of people of an ethnic group arrested for drunk driving were Mexicans. Oh my God, BZ, did you say it? Yes, I did, because it happened to be true. So why do they include drunk driving here? Because it's correct. And because it, for a time, was a taint on many Mexicans who were itinerant, farm workers, etc., got behind cars, after the wheel of automobiles, after drinking too much. Police can only call federal immigration authorities if they arrest an illegal immigrant with a violent felony on his or her record. In California, a person must be convicted 4 times in a decade for it to be considered a felony, the law enforcement officers and the sources said. They have repeatedly predicted that the law will open the door to another high-profile tragedy similar to Kate Steinle's death in 2015 at the hand of an illegal immigrant who had been deported a total of 5 times. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is trying to stop other cities and states from following California's lead. California's lead. So, is this going anywhere? Are there consequences? Oddly enough, yes, there are. This is from thehill.com. ICE director signals at-large arrests over new California sanctuary law. Oh, wait, you mean that we enacted this law in California and the feds are actually going to do something about it? Well, yeah, they are. Wait until you hear what they're going to do. The country's top immigration cop said last Friday, his agents will have no choice but to conduct workplace and neighborhood immigration raids in light of California's new sanctuary law. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Acting Director Thomas Homan, said in a statement last Friday that California Governor Jerry Brown's decision to sign the law SB 54 would undermine public safety and hinder ICE from performing its federally mandated mission. Stop. It's a federally mandated mission. And so leftists have decided that they're going to circumvent the law, meaning that it's like a menu. Today, I'll take one from column A, one from column B, maybe one from column C, and the rest of this stuff I don't feel like obeying. So it's pick and choose your laws at will. I've always said, and I've always will say, laws were made for enforcement. If you don't like the law, then go back and change the law. California did it. They became a sanctuary state. Well, if you don't like illegals arrested, then D.C., go back, get all your people together, rally the troops, and make an argument with your constituents that we need to get rid of immigration laws wholesale. And then let's be honest. 2 things I value for years and years and years, honesty and clarity. But it's still a law, and you're setting a terrible precedent because you're suggesting, you're intimating, you're actually outright telling people it's okay if you decide that you're going to pick and choose what law you're going to abide by today. Under California's new law, state and local police will have major restrictions in how and when they can collaborate with federal agents on immigration investigations and arrests. One notable provision in the law is that it prohibits so-called immigration holds. Now, stop right there. Let me tell you about an immigration hold, because this is something that we, in law enforcement, in California, I can speak for no other state, there's been a cooperation between the federal government and the state government and the local governments when the feds decide that they're going to issue a hold on another one. That's also called a detainer, or now these days, an ICE detainer. It's not specifically a warrant of arrest, but it is a hold from a federal agency saying we have an interest in this person. We have reason to believe that this person has violated the crimes of the United States by entering this country illegally. A hold or a detainer means exactly that. Hey, do us a favor. Hold them. It's a detainer. Okay? One notable provision in the law is it prohibits so-called immigration holds, requests from ICE to local authorities to hold a prisoner or detainee longer than the constitutionally mandated period. Not always true, because if known, if an individual is made known to the feds, to ICE, that person could easily be processed through the regular system, could be answering charges in a local jail for charges stemming from a crime, an arrest made in that jurisdiction. And while that's adjudicated, that hold is placed. So it does not mean that they're obviously always held longer than the constitutional limits. Wrong. That's a lie. And I happen to know that it's a lie. Opponents say a hold, also known as a detainer, constitutes a violation of a detainee's constitutional rights, and their enforcement puts local authorities at risk of liability. Only if the feds allow it. And ask yourself, who has supremacy in law? Is it the state or the federal government? It's the feds. So can a state officer, if a federal officer comes in, sees a particular person and says, hey, I know for a fact that Juan Valdez is illegal, and detains him, can a state official or a law enforcement officer come in and say, no, you're not taking him? The answer is no, because that's a federal law under which that comes. So, supporters, chief among them Homan and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, say detainers are necessary so arrests of dangerous immigrants can be made in the confines of jails and prisons. Captain Obvious, step on in, please. Why, would you ask? Guess what? Because you already know where they are, and they're already in custody, and you don't have to go to their schools. You don't have to go to their place of employment. You don't have to go and knock on their door. They're already in custody. May as well take care of it while the body is already in custody. Damn, does that make sense to you? It certainly makes sense to me. ICE will have no doubt, no choice, but to conduct at-large arrests in local neighborhoods and at work sites, which will inevitably result in additional collateral arrests instead of focusing on arrests at jails and prisons where transfers are safe for ICE officers and the community, Homan said. Still, California's new law allows for ICE agents to interview and arrest detainees in local facilities as long as they have a judicial warrant in keeping with due process protections in the Constitution. A warrant means that you have to go before a federal judge. What do we know about federal judges in immigration law? They can't even cope a bit with the amount of people and the crush that they have. That's why holds and detainers were created and were viewed as lawful in the first place. So what the state is doing is saying that, no, we don't recognize a federal hold and a federal detainer. The only thing that we recognize from this point out is a warrant. Now, can you imagine them having to go out with a warrant and walk it through for every individual that the ICE finds is a probable illegal in the state of California, much less the rest of the United States? That's why holds and detainers were created. Homan and others in the Trump administration have long argued that judicial warrants are unviable in immigration enforcement and that detainers are legally defensible. So the state of California is essentially saying, oh, well, this leaves us way too exposed. They're using that as a convenient argument because the state has not yet been sued under that particular venue. Homan also warned that under SB 54, ICE would likely have to detain individuals arrested in California in detention facilities outside of the state, far from any family they may have in California. Ultimately, SB 54 helps shield removable aliens from immigration enforcement and creates another magnet for more illegal immigration, all at the expense of the safety and security of the very people it purports to protect. Consequences. Real life, real time consequences. Well, did something else happen today, folks? As a matter of fact, yes, it did. Was there an executive order signed today by President Trump? And the answer is yes, there was. Also, from The Hill, a headline: CNN anchor dubs Trump hypocrite in chief for signing 50 executive orders. And I believe this came, if I'm not mistaken, from, just see,
Good evening. I'm
CNN.
Burnett. Out front tonight, hypocrite in chief. President Trump today doing something he harshly criticized President Obama for doing. Trump signing his 50th executive order today. The move allows insurance to sell bare-bones health care plans that don't meet the Obamacare requirements. And it is the most damaging blow so far to Obamacare.
Oh, damaging blow so far to Obamacare. So this is little Erin Burnett deciding that she's going to say that Trump is a hypocrite, when in fact, let's see, it was Obama that turned everything upside down and said the exact same thing. And said, Congress, you're not moving fast enough for me. So what happened? It looks to me like Trump learned from the best, right? Don't people say Obama is the best? Obama set the rule. He set the pace. So you should expect that things like this happen. Trump said we have a president that can't get anything done, so he just keeps signing executive orders all over the place in January 2016. So stand back. Let's relax. Let's center ourselves. Let's go namaste just for a second and ask ourselves the most logical question of all, which goes something like this. Why would you have to sign executive orders, specifically an executive order for Obamacare, if the GOP, the Republicans, had done the job themselves? Stop. Oh, BZ, are you bringing that crap up again? Well, yes, I am. Isn't it the GOP that for the past 7 to 8 years said repeal and replace Obamacare? As a matter of fact, that's how those fuckers got into their little seats right now in the Senate and the House, behind the chant of repeal, then replace, repeal, then replace. And so the electorate, boom, put them in their seats. And now, given the choice, because they have theirs up front, and because they have theirs up front, the electorate can go straight to hell. Were they rallying around Trump? No. Why? Because he's Trump. Simple. It's your basic blow me to Donald Trump. So you wonder why things aren't getting done? Sure, it's the Democrats. Every bit as culpable, if not more, are the Republicans. Consequences. So people are outraged, I tell you, that Trump is learning from the person who did it in the first place, his predecessor, Barack Obama. See, who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? The answer is yes, you can. Just a brief mention in passing. Keep your thoughts and prayers for the people of Marin, Sonoma counties who are still fighting these terrible fires. The winds out there have not died down. Evacuations have widened. The wildfires have spread to over 170,000 acres, and there are at least 23 dead so far. And further, about, let's see, 4,000, close to 4,000 homes have been destroyed. 4,000 homes have been destroyed by this fire that comes upon various communities sufficiently quick so that people look out the window and see orange And then the next minute, there's fire in their bedroom. That's how quickly it comes through. So, if you would, some thoughts and prayers for those folks, and also for the firefighters that are doing a damn good job trying to battle with something that's an evil beast that occasionally simply cannot be battled itself. I'm going to go to an article. I'm going to read an article from Imprimis. It's called Russian Collusion, and it sums up everything, basically, about Russia and the collusion and Donald Trump and what we know and what we don't know. Before we do that, over the past weekend, I sent a tweet out to the NFL, at NFL, and I said, that Sunday, meaning this past Sunday, if we still have individuals from various teams, any team, I couldn't care less which team, and after the shooting in Las Vegas, they're still going to kneel before the national anthem, which is a massive slap in the face to the United States of America and is an astounding show of disrespect to everything that flag represents and that anthem represents, then NFL, you're dead to me. Let me be honest, I don't care what they do from this point out. They may see, bing, God from above. And if they do, I still say this to you, NFL, you're dead to me. Fuck you. It's as simple as that. You pull this trick, and it's a trick, and you get to kneel because you can, unless it's in your contract, in which you can't. And conversely, on the other side, I get to not watch you. I get to not go to your advertisers. I get to not partake in the ratings. I get to cancel Dish. I get to cancel DirecTV, all those extra little NFL packages that people are doing. And I get to vote with my money and my thoughts because I'm free to do that just like you're free to kneel. We talked about consequences. I'd like to just remind everyone briefly here before we go to that new article about Russia. Just a little reminder to the NFL because those facts, sometimes they get in the way of a good screwed up argument, like kneeling and why people are kneeling and why they're disrespecting the national anthem and the American flag. Eric Reed, of the San Francisco 49ers said that there is systemic oppression. Remember that? Systemic oppression in the United States and the NFL. He said that because Vice President Mike Pence went to the Colts and 49ers game this past Sunday, the 8th, and Vice President Pence left the stadium when 23 San Francisco 49ers took a knee during the national anthem. So Eric Reed, this wit, Eric Reed, who knows everything there is to know about what has happened in the past and how the NFL has reacted to it, said this is what systemic oppression looks like. A man with power comes to the game, tweets a couple of things out, and leaves the game with an attempt to thwart our efforts. You're free to do that. Guess what? You're making a statement. Vice President Pence, he's free to do that as well. He leaves the game with an attempt to thwart our efforts. Based on the information I have, that's the assumption I've made. In response, Vice President Pence said, I left today's Colts game because President Trump and I will not dignify any event that disrespects our soldiers, our flag, or our national anthem. And what has been the standard cry all along from President Trump? You are disrespecting our flag, our national anthem, and the soldiers, men and women who die for that flag, for the United States. It doesn't have anything else to do with any of the crap that you're talking about. So how quickly it is that people seem to forget these aspects. And that's why you're listening to me. That's why you listen to me live and in podcast, because I bring this up. Damn those facts. They're a terrible thing. Anybody remember back in 2011 when Tim Tebow took a knee for God while he was quarterbacking for the Denver Broncos? And It was heresy. The media went crazy over it. It was heresy, I tell you. Well, Tebow's a Caucasoid, and he was taking a knee for God. And so we need to get rid of him. Out of the way. Well, okay, they got rid of him. Out of the way. Then there was 2013. Football coach Joseph Kennedy. If you remember him, not in the NFL, but he was a football coach. Nevertheless, lost his job for kneeling at the 50-yard line after games. Perhaps he should have knelt during the national anthem, right? So is the difference between this only a matter of timing? Kennedy, an assistant high school coach in Bremerton, Washington, used to lead his team and staff in prayer in the locker room and then prayed at the 50-yard line after games. Students would join him, and the school district squashed that because Kennedy was endorsing a religion. What religion? Well, no one really said, and no one accused him. J'accusais. The district would allow Kennedy to pray at the 50-yard line after everyone had left the stadium. Kennedy agreed to this, but eventually began praying before all the parents and students exited, so he was suspended. We cannot have this, and he was eventually fired. He tried to sue the school district, and he lost, and he found himself sued. Himself sued for kneeling before God. That's the state of our country today. Oh, but I'm not done yet, am I? No, I'm not. 2013. The NFL fined Brandon Marshall $10,500 for daring to wear green cleats to raise awareness for people with mental health disorders. Marshall is black. 2014, Robert Griffin III entered a post-game press conference wearing a shirt that said, "No Jesus, no peace." K-N-O-W. No Jesus, no peace. But he was forced to turn it inside out by an NFL uniform inspector before speaking at the podium. Griffin is black. 2015. D'Angelo Williams was fined $5,787 for wearing Find the Cure Eye Black for breast cancer awareness. Williams is black. 2015, William Gay was fined $5,787 for wearing purple cleats to raise awareness for domestic violence, something that is inherent within and endemic within the NFL. Gay is black. 2016, just last year, the NFL prevented the Dallas Cowboys from wearing a teeny-weeny little weensy decal on their helmet in honor of the 5 Dallas Police Department officers killed in the line of duty that year. Can't do it. 2016, the NFL prevented and threatened to fine players like Avery Williamson, who is black, who wanted to wear cleats to commemorate the 15th anniversary of 9/11. So, Eric Reed, just who is oppressive and for what reasons? And I wrap this up now because we're going to go to a break, top of the hour, in just a bit. This is a quite telling quote from Colin Kaepernick, the instigator of the whole damn sitting down and taking a knee thing, who basically said, "I'll stand if I get an NFL job." So it looks to me like Kaepernick doesn't truly mind performing just a wee bit of corporate fellatio when he benefits. Now that it got out, he's walking it back, of course. He didn't say that because it wouldn't look good. Wouldn't look good because it looks like it's all about him, when in fact, of course, yes, it's all about him. Too late, my callow friend. It's already out there because you already said it. I wonder how the rest of you football wonks, what you think and what you feel about having been absolutely just outright abandoned by your idol, Colin Kaepernick.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads radio show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, "Yeah, I could probably do that better"? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com. And maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
You are listening to SHRmedia.com. You're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It is Thursday, October the 12th. The year of our Lord 2017. Tomorrow is Friday the 13th. I'm not broadcasting on Friday the 13th. Whew. Wow. Missed out. Thank God. Didn't have to worry about that because things could be terrible. Could they not? I told you that I was going to read this article, and I frequently, well, I can't say frequently, but every once in a while I read an article that I wish I had written. This is out of Imprimus. This is called Russian Collusion. It's by a writer named Molly Hemingway, and it goes like this. We keep being told that President Trump is not normal. This much has been blindingly obvious. He'd never run for office or otherwise served in a public capacity at all. He's been accused, not without reason, of breaking all manner of political norms. America's most non-traditional president was never going to conduct business as usual from the West Wing. Less than a year into his first term, he's already caused much anguish in Washington. This should be no surprise. While running for office, Trump repeatedly promised to drain the swamp and shake things up. Americans knew who they were voting for, and history will judge the results. Now, that said, Trump's nascent presidency has coincided with perhaps the greatest violation of political norms this country has ever seen. A violation that has nothing to do with Trump's behavior. Since the election last November, there has been a sustained, coordinated attack on Trump's legitimacy as president following his victory in a free and fair election. This has the potential to cause far more lasting damage to America than Trump's controversial style. Democratic operatives and their media allies who I call the American media maggots, by the way, as an aside by BZ, attempted to explain Trump's victory with the claim that they had failed to make stick during the general election. Trump had nefarious, and I mean nefarious, ties to Russia. Yes, Russia. The terrible country, the evil regime. This was a fertile area for allegations, if for no other reason than Trump had been reluctant to express criticism of Russian President Vladimir Putin. By contrast, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton repeatedly condemned Russia's 2011 elections, saying that they were neither free nor fair, and expressing serious concerns about them. She publicly called for a full investigation while meeting with top Russian officials. This made Putin livid. Quote, Mr. Putin said that hundreds of millions in dollars in foreign money was being used to influence Russian politics, and that Mrs. Clinton had personally spurred protesters to action. The New York Times reported. Trump's relationship with Putin was decidedly different. In December 2015, Putin called Trump a really brilliant and talented person. Trump replied, "It is always a great honor to be so nicely complimented by a man so highly respected within his own country and beyond." He added, "I've always felt that Russia and the United States should be able to work well with each other towards defeating terrorism and restoring world peace, not to mention trade and all of the other benefits derived from mutual respect." Being conciliatory to Russia. That's an editorial from BZ. Then rumors surfaced in the summer of 2016 that Russia probably had something to do with the alleged hack of the Democratic National Committee email system, as well as the successful phishing of Democratic insider John Podesta's inbox, his email inbox. Russia was also alleged to have tried to hack the Republican National Committee, but without success. Stop. I wonder why. Maybe it protected things a little bit better than the DNC. It remained an open question whether the Russians were trying to help Trump or were simply trying to create chaos in the election. Regardless, these Democratic Party emails were published by WikiLeaks, and they confirmed what many critics had said about Clinton and the DNC. The DNC had engineered the primary to ensure a Clinton victory. The Clinton campaign had cozy, borderline unethical relations with members of the mainstream media. Clinton expressed private positions to Wall Street banks that were at odds with her public administrations and positions, and various others embarrassing details indicating her campaign was in disarray. According to Shattered, a well-sourced book about the Clinton campaign written by sympathetic reporters, Clinton settled on a Russian excuse. Within 24 hours of her concession speech, campaign manager Robbie Mook and John Podesta assembled her communications team at the Brooklyn headquarters to engineer the case that the election wasn't entirely on the up and up. For a couple of hours, with Shake Shack containers littering the room, they went over the script they would pitch to the press and the public. Already, Russian hacking was the centerpiece of the argument. But I have to ask, was it real? That's just me. That's my question. The Russian collusion story involves a lot of details, but there are two basic tactics that Trump's enemies had used to push the narrative. They put seemingly innocuous contacts with Russians under a microscope, and they have selectively touted details supplied by politicized intelligence apparatus. And all this has been amplified by a media that has lost perspective and refuses to be impartial, much less accurate. Meetings with Russians. If most of us can now agree that Putin's Russia is a potential threat to the United States, we shouldn't forget that the Washington establishment regarded this as a radical opinion not so long ago. Shortly after President Obama was elected in 2008, Time magazine ran a cover with him asking a Russian bear, "Can we be friends?" The media generally celebrated Secretary of State Clinton's attempts at a Russian reset in 2009. if you remember that. Obama was later caught on a hot mic promising Putin more flexibility once he was reelected. As an aside, again, to me, that seems awfully conciliatory to the Russians. Does it not sound that way to you? And during Obama's reelection campaign in 2012, when his opponent Mitt Romney characterized Russia as our greatest geopolitical foe, Obama mocked him by saying, the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. The New York Times editorial page said of Romney's Russian comments that they display either a shocking lack of knowledge about international affairs or just craven politics. Either way, they are reckless and unworthy of a major presidential contender. Trump's election changed all of that. Not since the heyday of McCarthyism in the 1950s have so many in Washington been accused of consorting with Russians who wished to undermine American democracy. The Washington Post reported in mid-January that Mike Flynn, Trump's incoming national security advisor, had spoken via telephone with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak on December 29th, the day the Obama administration announced the expulsion of 35 Russian officials in retaliation for the DNC hacking. Although such conversations are perfectly legal, the Post suggested quite incredibly that Flynn might have violated the Logan Act, which bars U.S. citizens from correspondence intending to influence a foreign government about disputes with the United States. The Logan Act, which is a long record of being cited by cranks, has not been enforced since it was passed in 1799. Because it's widely considered to be grossly unconstitutional. In addition to the Post, the New York Times, Foreign Policy magazine, and other outlets credulously repeated the same ludicrous talking points about the Logan Act violation. Let it also be noted that Flynn, while a critic of Russia and of the Iran nuclear deal that Russia helped put together, also was paid to speak at a dinner hosted by the Russian TV network Russia Today. If you ever seen the little green box that says RT and wondered what it is, that's it, Russia Today. When then-Senator Jeff Sessions was asked during his confirmation hearing to be U.S. Attorney General about allegations of Russian attempts to compromise the Trump campaign, he noted that he had been a Trump surrogate and hadn't heard of any meetings for this purpose, when it turned out Sessions had met with Kislyak in a different capacity as a U.S. Senator in the Armed Services Committee. The ensuing uproar in the media led him to recuse himself from any investigation into Russian meddling. You all remember that, I'm sure. Of course, it was Kislyak's job to facilitate as many meetings as possible with top officials across the political spectrum, and he was seen at meetings with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Senator Claire McCaskill, two prominent Democrats, as well as other Republicans. Indeed, such meetings between foreign ambassadors and U.S. elected officials are routine. Routine? No, that can't be. That doesn't seem to be right. It's true that Trump was associated with people who had ties to Russia. His former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, had previously done political consulting work in Ukraine for Russian-aligned groups. Carter Page, a foreign policy advisor with a limited role, a National Naval Academy graduate, businessman, and an academic who had been open about his belief that America's anti-Russian foreign policy has been counterproductive, and Roger Stone, a campaign advisor with a reputation for outlandish campaign work, reportedly spoke with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange as well as Guccifer 2.0, who may be a Russian hacker. But perhaps no meeting attracted as much scrutiny as one in June 2016 between Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner, and various Russians, including a Russian lawyer. According to email correspondence, the Trump associates were told they would receive opposition research on Clinton that may have been provided by the Russian government. No research was handed over, but critics said the language in the emails supported claims of attempted collusion. Collusion. After weeks of accusations, the story quickly ran out of steam when it was revealed the Russian lawyer, who was to have provided the information, had employed a shadowy opposition research firm known as Fusion GPS. Do you remember BZ's talking about Fusion GPS and its relationship with, say, John McCain? A business that had strong ties to Democratic instruments, had previously tried to smear Mitt Romney donors and critics of Planned Parenthood, and had played a key role in a recent and infamous attempt to smear Trump. Politicized intelligence. Many allegations concerning Russia have been taken seriously, based solely on the institutional credibility of the accusers. It appears that members of America's intelligence community are some of the president's most passionate opponents. But wait, BZ says, doesn't everyone continuously bleat that there is no politicization whatsoever in any of the alphabet agencies? They are completely unbiased, right? Of course. Late last December, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI put out a 13-page report touted as definitive proof of Russian state involvement in the DNC server hack and the phishing attack on John Podesta's emails. It was remarkably paltry, vague, and nonspecific in a way that really didn't help clarify the precise nature of Russians' involvement. Cyber warfare expert Jeffrey Carr wrote that the report adds nothing to the call for evidence that the Russian government was responsible for the hacks. It listed every threat ever reported by a commercial cybersecurity company that was suspected of having a Russian origin, Carr noted, lumping them under the heading of Russian intelligence services without providing any supporting evidence that such a connection existed. Former Air Force cyber warfare officer Robert Lee said the report was of limited use to security professionals in part because of the poor organization and lack of crucial details. Senior intelligence appointees tried again in early January with a report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI. It was also lacking in specifics, but comments from high-profile Democrats supported by a leak campaign to media outlets did have an effect. By late December, more than half of the Democrats believed, despite the lack of evidence, that, quote, Russia tampered with vote tallies in order to get Donald Trump elected, according to a YourGov.com poll. When Trump responded to these reports with dismissals and a few begrudging admissions of minor contacts with Russians, critics gleefully warned him that partisans at intelligence agencies would retaliate. Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said, "Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you." Oh, wait, Chucky, does that mean that the intelligence agencies, well, they really aren't unbiased? They really are politicized. That's what you're saying. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-headed, hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this. Former George W. Bush speechwriter and current Never Trump activist David Frum echoed this sentiment. CIA message to Trump: you mess with us, get ready for a leak storm of biblical proportions. Essentially, intelligence agencies were being publicly encouraged to abuse their power to stop Trump before he'd even assumed office. In January, the big story dropped. Intel chiefs presented Trump with claims of Russian efforts to compromise him, blared the headline from CNN. According to highly placed anonymous sources, top intelligence appointees had informed Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, and Trump that Russian operatives claimed to have compromising personal and financial information about Mr. Trump. A former British intelligence operative, here we go, had compiled a damaging dossier on the president-elect. CNN reported that intelligence officials considered this operative's past work credible, but he'd paid his Russian sources for the compromising information, and CNN published its report on the dossier without confirming any of the allegations. Within the hour, BuzzFeed published the actual text of the dossier. It said, among other things, that a senior Trump advisor and 3 of his colleagues had met with Kremlin operatives in Prague in late August or early September to undermine the Clinton campaign. And the Russians were said to have a compromat file on Trump, including an amazing story about him renting a hotel room the Obamas had used and paying prostitutes to urinate on the bed. One of the claims was quickly disproven. Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, who was alleged to have gone to Prague for a clandestine meeting with Kremlin operatives, had never been to Prague. Damn. Facts. And to date, no media organization has provided any independent evidence to confirm a single claim made in the dossier. It was soon revealed that the firm that had hired the former British operative and put together the dossier was the aforementioned Fusion GPS, who aligns itself with Democrats. What's more, the FBI allegedly sought to pay the British operative to continue gathering dirt on Trump, but we know that the alphabet agencies are not politicized. Aside from a lack of concern about the accuracy of the charges against Trump, intelligence chiefs were not discriminating about who got caught up in their anti-Trump crusade. In March, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes basically said that the unmasking of Trump transition team members had occurred during the last 3 months of the Obama presidency. That is, significant personal information from and about Trump associates had been collected and widely disseminated. I recently confirmed that on numerous occasions the intelligence community incidentally collected information about U.S. citizens involved in the Trump transition, Nunes said. The information collected, he added, had little or no foreign intelligence value and nothing to do with Russia. Obama's national security advisor, Susan Rice, UN ambassador, Samantha Power, and National Security Council spokesman, turn the page, BZ, turn the page, Ben Rhodes, were later reported to be involved in this rampant unmasking activity. Trump created one of the biggest firestorms of his presidency in May when he fired FBI Director James Comey. Stop. That was one of the best things that he did. However, he did it way too late. He should have fired James Comey at midnight on January 21st. Boom. Done. Gone. The embattled FBI head who let Hillary Clinton slide after her illegal handling of classified information had been routinely criticized by both Democrats and Republicans and was officially fired for general ineptness. However, Trump said it was also because Comey was playing games with the Russian investigation. In his letter relieving him of his duties, Trump mentioned that Comey had told him 3 times he was not under investigation. Many journalists scoffed at this claim, since Comey was publicly intimating otherwise. When he was fired, stories favorable to Comey about private meetings between Comey and Trump came out in the media. In testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee a few weeks later, Comey admitted he had, in fact, told Trump at least 3 times he was not under investigation by the FBI. Comey also admitted under oath that his leaks to the New York Times were designed to force the hiring of a special prosecutor. His strategy paid off when his close friend and former colleague, Robert Mueller, by the way, a former FBI director, was appointed to head an investigation of Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign. That investigation has since spiraled out of control to include leads that have nothing to do with Russia, according to media reports. The egregious behavior of influential officials such as Comey has encouraged people to think that the verdict of the intelligence community was more conclusive than it was. During a 2016 presidential debate, Clinton said, "We have 17 intelligence agencies, civilian and military, who have all concluded that these espionage attacks, these cyber attacks, come from the highest levels of the Kremlin, and they're designed to influence our election." Clinton's claim wasn't true. It was only 3 agencies, the FBI, the CIA, and the National Security Agency, that made such a claim. Yet media outlets such as NBC, CBS, CNN, the New York Times, let me throw this in there too, Michael Medved, Republican, period, repeated the number 17 numerous times. In late June, the New York Times corrected a story that made that false claim. So did the Associated Press. In general, the media have overstated the confidence in public evidence in support of Russian hacking. One group of skeptical intelligence analysts, the Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, boy, they strained to make that one, VIPs, issued a memo in late July arguing that the hack of the DNC emails wasn't a hack at all, but an internal leak. VIPs is generally thought to be sympathetic to the left. The same group had cast doubts about the quality of intelligence that led the United States to invade Iraq in 2003. The VIP's memo raises questions about why the FBI failed to perform an independent forensic analysis of the Democrat emails or servers in question. In fact, no federal agency performed a forensic analysis, leaving that to CrowdStrike, a company with strong ties to the Clinton campaign that had an incentive to blame foreign governments for the attack. Surely, more forensic scrutiny of the centerpiece of the Russian hack claim is in order. But as BZ says, wait, that's way too logical. To date, all of the misleading claims in news reports, the only actual crime related to the Trump-Russia investigation is the criminal leaking of classified information about U.S. citizens by intelligence officials. And then, the last, media problems. A compliant media responded to the Clinton campaign's blame Russia strategy by pushing stories alleged wrongdoing by Russia. Many of the early ones, they just fell apart. The Washington Post published a story saying that fake news, a term originally used to describe the dissemination of blatantly false news reports intended to go viral on social media, was a Russian operation designed to help Trump. An editor's note was appended backing away from the report a couple weeks later. Trump would famously appropriate the term fake news to describe reports from the mainstream media he found unfair. A few weeks later, the Post ran an even more incendiary story alleging that Russian hackers had penetrated the U.S. electrical grid. This turned out to be false. One media outlet headline read, "Trump, Russian billionaires say they've never met, but their jets did." Presumably, these inanimate objects exchanged pleasantries and discussed sensitive foreign policy matters. CNN has had particular trouble. Breathless headlines such as Trump aides were in constant touch with senior Russian officials during campaign fail to be supported with evidence, any evidence. Anonymous officials would say that such communications are not unusual, and investigators had not reached a judgment of any nefarious intent. Other CNN stories had bigger problems, such as the one reporting that Comey would testify he never told Trump that he was not under investigation. As mentioned previously, Comey admitted under oath that he'd said this 3 times, just as Trump claimed. Another story reporting a problematic meeting between a Trump associate and a Russian, again based on a single anonymous source, was quietly retracted, and 3 employees who worked on it were dismissed. Journalism in the Trump era has become far too dependent on unreliable and anonymous sources, and considering the steady drumbeat in the media about Trump having a strained relationship with facts, there is plenty of irony in the fact that the media have to correct or retract an unprecedented number of stories about him and his administration. There are three primary ways of viewing the Trump-Russia narrative. View one is that Russians hacked the election and Donald Trump committed treason by knowingly colluding with them. The Obama administration didn't surveil Trump or his associates, but if it did, it was simply doing its job. View two is that Russia was probably involved in the hacking and releasing of emails from the DNC and John Podesta. Some Trump associates had ties to Russia, but there's no evidence of Trump or his campaign colluding with Russia. View three is that the Russian story is a complete fiction concocted by sore losers unable to deal with the reality of their electoral loss. To me, ding, ding, ding. It shouldn't be difficult to ascertain which one of these views is most grounded in facts, despite his friendly rhetoric toward Russia and Putin during the campaign. Trump's presidency has been marked by a bombing of Russian-backed Syria, bombing of the Russia-aligned Taliban in Afghanistan, stricter enforcement of economic sanctions, support for the expansion of NATO, liquid natural gas exports to Europe that undercut Russia's economy, the selling of U.S. missile defense to Poland and Romania, and opposition to the Russian-negotiated Iran nuclear deal. In the meantime, the self-styled anti-Trump resistance has created a standard it must meet to justify the broken norms and political trauma to which it has subjected the country. That standard is nothing less than the proof that Donald Trump is a traitor put into the White House through collusion with Russia to undermine our electoral system. The better part of a year into his presidency, Trump's enemies have not come close to meeting that standard. Boom. Drop the mic. It's a story. It was long, but I'd wish I'd written it, because essentially what it says is, and I agree, it's all sour grapes. Speaking of sour grapes, we are way past time, so we're going to hit a break. Oh my gosh, I'm 3 minutes late, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin on the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, the SHR Media Network. Yes?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
Head bashing 101, courtesy of Jersey Joe. You're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin on the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, courtesy of the SHR Media Network, also held on the Lone Star News and also on Lone Star TV, also on YouTube, also on the SHR Media Facebook page, and you can go to shrmedia.com and listen to what's going on Spreaker. Tucker Carlson was speaking recently to an individual named Peter Kirsanow, and they were talking about various myths about racism. And this is going to go somewhere because I'm going to lead into probably what will be my last point of the night, but I'm going to set this up a little bit, you see.
Last night we had a guest called Monique Presley on to discuss the increased racialization, if that's a word, should be, of American politics. Civil Rights Commissioner Peter Kirsanow watched. He was infuriated by the claims Presley made. He'll be here in a minute to explain why he was. Stay tuned. Well, during last night's show, we interviewed a lawyer called Monique Presley. She came on to discuss the repeated injection of racial rhetoric into the national anthem protests and, by extension, into the American political discourse.
I wonder who injected it in the first place.
Here's part of what she said.
The issue is why there are protests in the first place and the people who are living terrified every day just walking down the street. So if you look at how we got here because African American men are disproportionately stopped, disproportionately searched, disproportionately arrested, and disproportionately killed per capita in this country.
All wrong.
Peter Kirsanow is an attorney. He's a member of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. He's a regular guest on this show. He saw that segment last night. He objected.
Uh-oh, he's black.
Objected to it, so we asked him to come on and explain why he did. Peter Kirsanow joins us tonight. Peter, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
So what was your contention with that segment last night?
Almost everything that you just played was false, inaccurate, and based on a false premise.
Thank you.
And it's a false premise that's been perpetuated for quite some time now.
Like hands up, don't shoot.
There's no doubt whatsoever that this country has a baleful history with respect to race. Blacks have been discriminated against in egregious ways. People have been killed, and it's something that's been relatively recent. And there's no doubt that blacks have been targeted by cops. In a nation of 320 million people, there are going to be racists, and some of those are going to be cops. But for the last 30 years, that premise that blacks are disproportionately targeted, arrested, shot by cops is completely false, and all you have to do is look at the Department of Justice statistics. And we've looked at these kinds of things, and the Civil Rights Commission, there are copious studies on this.
Meaning this, the numbers are going down.
Just for example, and this is pretty bad, frankly, the Justice Department stats show that blacks are in fact killed 2.5 times more often than whites are by policemen. However, when you take a look at, remember that statistic, 2.5 times more frequently, but that's far less than what the data would predict given black crime rates. Take New York City, for example. Blacks are not 2.5 times more likely to commit crimes. Blacks in New York City are 35 times more likely to commit robberies than whites, 38 times more.
35 times 138 times more
likely to commit murders and 51 times more likely to engage in shootings, regardless of whether or not it results in a homicide. So when you think about 2.5 times versus 51 times, the type of police involvement that you would expect from those kinds of stats is far below than what would be predicted. And that has consequences in regard to what's known as the Ferguson effect.
Thank you. Finally, someone's going to address this. And I've been doing it for quite some time.
What we saw is, and Heather McDonald, the great scholar from Manhattan Institute, has done a number of studies on this, great work on this, testified before the Civil Rights Commission showing that because of these protests and the consequences of it, police withdraw from active and proactive policing, and sometimes the city administrations tell them to, as we saw with the mayor of Baltimore. The Obama administration had consent decrees which changed police practices, so police withdrew from active policing.
Stop. An interjection by me, because I still have contacts on many, many police departments. This guy, Peter Kirsanow, is exactly correct. The phrase is over-policing, and police recently in the past 5 years or so have been told that they over-police. So this wasn't just a suggestion. This wasn't just a prompt, so to speak. The police were told by members of their own administrations that they were going to pull back, that they were guilty of over-policing. And after a while, well, actually, initially, there was some pushback on that, and some of the police said, no, that's going to result in crime going up, and that's a really stupid thing to do. We're not going to do it. Until they found that they got their own arses in trouble in their own administrations. And after having been told and having it slammed into their heads for month after month after month that you over-police, you need to back off, guess what? Being humans, I think they got the message that they were thought to over-police, and they backed off.
That consequence is profound because despite the fact that we've had decades of a decline in the crime rate, right after...
where did the crime rate peak? It peaked in the 90s when I was in robbery, when I went to homicide from robbery. And I went there logically because all my robbery suspects were also my homicide suspects. Crime peaked in 1992, 93, 94, 95. That's also when shootings peaked as well.
Ferguson, we saw a significant spike in violent crimes, most especially in those cities which witnessed the types of high-profile shootings and protests that resulted in police drawing back. Except for, this is very interesting, Pew studies showed that 72% of police were less engaged in proactive policing as a result of this Ferguson effect, except for one cohort, black cops. Black cops are 3.3 times more likely to shoot black suspects than white cops.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's hear that again. Because, that can't be true, can it?
Black cops. Black cops are 3.3 times more likely to shoot black suspects than white cops. But even so, when you look at the correlative crime data, that is black involvement in crime versus police shootings, the number of shootings are far below that which would be predicted based on crime involvement. And when you have the false narrative and you've got this perpetuation of all these protests and it causes the Ferguson effect, here's what the consequences are. Take a look at the data. Despite the dramatic decline in crime rates, in 2015, 900 more blacks were murdered than in the year before. In 2016, 900 more. So we had 7,881 blacks killed in 2016, the vast majority, more than 90%, by other blacks, not cops. That's nearly twice as many as the number of soldiers that were killed in the entire Iraq war, and it's at least partially a consequence of this false narrative feeding this outrage, which then feeds the protests, which then results in a Ferguson effect, and then the spike of the crime rates.
So wait, is what he is saying this? That by being leftists and instead of loving blacks, they're killing blacks? That's what the facts would tend to indicate. In what world does this make sense? The answer is obviously the United States right now.
Most of the people, I think, in goodwill may be ignorant of those facts and believe, subjectively, I've been pulled over by the cops, and if you talk within your own little universe, you believe that maybe you're being subjected or treated differently, except when you look at the objective facts. Most people in good faith probably believe, but are ignorant of the fact that, in fact, the narrative is false. But there is a cohort of individuals, some politicians, some political opportunists that are using this for a political imperative.
Political opportunists, Sharpton, Jackson, what I call the poverty pimps and the racist pimps.
That's despicable because we have bodies on the ground.
I don't think I've ever done a segment where I didn't say one word because I was so mesmerized by what you were saying. I can't remember someone with that kind of command of the numbers. Thank you. Peter Kirsanow, I'm really glad that you came on tonight.
Thanks, Tucker.
I hope you will come back anytime. Thank you.
Absolutely true. And I think I got one final story, and I think I'm going to be able to fit it into the space here. It's kind of long, and it involves a video, and it involves audio. And I want you to hear this because it is so indicative of the position that universities are in today. I called this a typical leftist racist. And you may have heard this, but you're going to hear the whole damn thing. If you have little kids in the room, number one, they shouldn't be there in the first place because this is a late night radio show. And we do say the S and the F words occasionally in here. And trust me, in this racist leftist is going to use a whole flurry of words similar to that. So put your fingers in your kids' ears. I remember that before she passed away, my mother-in-law told me, she passed away of pancreatic cancer, by the way, in 2007. She said to me that some people are put on earth just to be an example of what not to do or how not to act. Okay? So this young Hispanic unit that you're going to hear in the video that I'm going to play is a perfect example. I want you to hear the true nature of most leftists today, and certainly the bulk of what I call silkworms on campus. I think her behavior and her words illustrate my point infinitely better than I ever could. This is another reason that free speech is absolutely brilliant and why we must keep free speech. It allows you to see the actual person behind the vocal cords. So she and other leftists live in the land where fuck you is a legitimate reply to a question, and that to steal the property belonging to another is valid, and where racist remarks are not only justified, but they are mandated, specifically when it comes to Caucasoids. Listen.
You stole my property, my Make America Great Again hat.
Look at the kind of shit he's wearing. Look
at the kind of shit he's wearing. By the way, it's a red Donald Trump cap. It says, Make America Great Again. Oh, by the way, that's what this is all about. A red MAGA cap.
What, you're going to turn it into student life? What the hell is your problem?
Hey, y'all. So this guy thought it would be a good idea to go into the conference
with my freedom of speech.
Hat.
With my freedom of speech, she took my hat.
Wearing
this belongs to me. Give it back to me. It belongs to me. This belongs to me.
By the way, he starts to make sort of a half-assed attempt to grab it, and she just pulls it away from him. And the little leftist galps behind the counter are doing absolutely nothing.
Bought it, and she took it from me. It is mine.
Really, look at the kind of shit he's wearing. You know what this represents? This represents genocide.
I understand.
Genocide of a bunch of people. And look at what he's wearing in front of a group of people.
This is mine. This is mine. You do not get to take other people's property that is legally theirs in this country.
Man, fuck your laws. All right?
There's finally a leftist tells us what they really think about laws. Fuck your laws.
Do you have any fucking conscience?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes, and I
really?
do.
And that's why you go in there wearing this hat?
That's precisely why.
Because you have a conscience?
Yes.
Look,
She stole my hat.
This
She
guy
stole
went
my
up
hat.
there.
I was walking around.
No, let me tell you something.
I was walking
Most
around
of them-
and she went and took the hat off of my head.
Most of the groups in this campus.
It does not
most
matter.
of the groups
I
on
have
this
a
campus
freedom of speech
are-
to wear this
Your
hat.
fucking freedom of speech is genocide, homeboy.
Your freedom of speech is genocide, homeboy.
It doesn't matter.
Is that what you're trying
My
to represent?
freedom of speech allows me to wear that hat as much as I
swear
want.
to God, I
You
wish I
do
could
not get
burn
to
this
steal my property.
I swear to God, I'm gonna burn this shit.
I paid for that. I bought it. It is mine. It is mine. Give it back. You give it back. Are you people not going to do anything? She's stealing my property.
And the answer is no. They're gaups. They're not gonna do anything. What they're gonna do is they're gonna pick up a phone and call someone else because they don't want to handle it.
Look, I don't want to make a big thing out of this,
I
but that is
actually
mine.
don't, because it's so fucking
That is
important
mine.
that y'all are allowing
I
people
was
to
up at
wear
the student org
this
retreat, and
on
she
a
stole
campus
it from
that
my
has
head.
the majority people of color.
Now it's kind of being binged off of him, and now it's starting to become their fault too in the student office.
In this campus, and you let people walk around and wear this shit.
No.
Look at this.
Let's calm down.
Make America great again. It was never fucking great. Never.
America was never great. Never.
Get out, honestly, if you
What
don't
do
like
you
the
mean
country.
get out? I was
Get
born
out.
here.
If you don't like it so
What
much,
you
get
mean
out.
get out? Where the fuck am I gonna go?
Go to
I was
Mexico.
born
Go wherever
here.
the hell you want. Give me
How
back
the fuck
my
do
hat.
you know that I'm brown? You don't know
I
shit
don't
about
care.
me.
I don't care.
What do you mean Mexico?
Give me my hat. That's all I want is my hat back.
He didn't say Mexico. She did.
It's literally all I want.
It's okay.
I started none of this.
It's okay. Let's calm down a little bit. We can talk as a trio here, but let's try to just.
So you're recording me like I'm the criminal here.
No, because okay.
Because you are. You are the criminal here. In California, that's 488 PC. That's theft. That is a crime.
Stole my property. That is
Y'all
literally a
stole
crime.
This land. Your ancestors stole this land.
That is literally a crime. That is literally a crime.
Can I take it? Can I be the neutral party and I'll take it?
God, I could burn this shit right now.
But it's because we can't. We will need to return his property to him, but then we can talk about.
Oh, now listen to her. Oh, shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have said that to her.
How about we talk about not letting people wear this shit on
How
campus?
about we talk about supporting freedom of speech?
How about we talk
Something
about
that
supporting
people
freedom
fought
of speech?
and died for.
When people could have tried to fucking protest and use their freedom of speech, what happens?
People let them. Are you
No,
kidding
that's
me?
not fucking true.
I was at the protest in Berkeley, and I was the one who was silent.
Y'all be making these memes and posting about how we just like want to make a riot and we just want to be loud and obnoxious when we're really trying to fight genocide from happening.
Give me my property.
Genocide. What genocide? Where is it? Be specific. Use facts. Oh, sorry. Don't have any. No facts. No genocide.
That is all I want here. Give me my
Really?
property, and I will leave, and I will go back to the retreat
Like
where I'm supposed
legit
to be.
fucking think about it. How about you read history books?
Give me my property, and I will go
How about you read history books?
back
How
up
about
to
you
the retreat,
reflect on what
and
the
I will
fuck you're doing?
not
Let
care.
me tell you something. The reason why this is pissing me off because he wore it in a group where literally most of the organizations in the school are led by people of color. And
including mine. My president is a Filipino.
Oh no way! And does that make you not racist? Because last time I checked, you were wearing this fucking hat.
I myself am half
Because last time I checked-
Nicaraguan.
Oh my
I don't
God,
care.
But you're fucking white, boy.
There we go. There's the racist. It finally comes out. Nicaraguan, he looks white, so you're a fucking white boy. Doesn't matter. You are what I say you are when I say you are. It.
White.
Are you assuming that? Are you assuming that?
Oh, you can't assume about her, but she's assuming about him. No problem. Who's the racist here?
My race?
Though.
Are you assuming my race?
Because
I mean, come on. Let's be consistent here. Let's be consistent here.
You pass as a white man.
I don't care. I am half Nicaraguan.
He passes. He passes. Evil for passing.
I am half Nicaraguan. You are assuming my race here. All I want is my property. 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 All I want is my property.
People wear this shit on campus.
All I want is my property. That is all I want here.
Is your blood pressure going up? Because that's what I want it to do.
Paid for that with my own money. And that's all I want, is my own money.
Make America great again, really.
All I want is my own property. And honestly, the fact that you people haven't gotten this back from me is sad. It's wrong.
We're
going to talk to her.
We're getting someone here.
Yeah.
They're afraid of her. That's why it won't happen. They are afraid of her.
We're trying to get everyone to just
We're trying to get everyone just to namaste and mellow out a little bit.
I'm fine.
No. We're gonna take a breather.
Honestly, I'm fine. I just want my property. All I want is my property.
That's full of shit, because y'all are just gonna like mediate this and make it so like, oh, we're all
We're gonna mediate this, you know, and mediate can go to hell.
okay here, freedom of speech, whatever. How about we
Freedom of speech, whatever. That's what she thinks of freedom of speech.
actually think about what's going on in
The
this
country that you
How about we
apparently love
actually-
so much
No, I
supports
really
freedom
don't.
of
Though I
speech.
fucking hate this country.
I fucking hate this country.
That's why I say leave.
I hate it, and I'm not
That's
leaving.
why I say
I'm
leave.
staying here because there's shit that needs to be fixed here, so that's why I'm staying.
Okay.
I fucking hate this country. Thank you for being honest.
Then you don't fix it by
Because
breaking the
we need
laws.
to get rid of all y'all.
But we don't.
Because we need to get rid of all y'all, meaning you, whites, men. Get rid of you.
Fix it by breaking the
Alright,
laws. And
we don't-
newsflash, I was born here too. I'm not leaving.
Give a fuck where you were born, boy. You got a
And I don't care where you were born either.
shitload of privilege in you, and it shows by you wearing this hat.
I don't care.
And it shows
I take
by
the
you wearing
privilege
this
that I
proudly
wear,
around
that I live in
when
this
there's
country.
literally
I have
people
freedoms that
getting
people
killed
fought,
out
that
there.
people fight and die for. Freedoms that allow me to wear that hat. Freedoms that allow you to speak out against it, but not to take my property.
Oh my God, property.
That is the foundation. The foundation of a free country is private property.
fuck
That is
working in
my
communities,
property.
'cause
That
fuck
hat
working in
is my
communities.
property.
Everybody just needs to have their own fucking
That
real
hat
best
is
space.
my property.
You are so
Give me my property. That is all I want here. All I want here is my property.
Guys, let me have the hat until we can get somebody down here. Okay?
Wait, is it not going straight back to me? It's my property.
Back to you, but we need to have somebody mediate in the meantime.
We need to give him back.
Well, we need to have someone mediate here in the meantime.
Let me just take it so it's out of our hands.
Why can't we sit down at a little even table and just make things better? Isn't that what we want to do? Just make things better. Aren't we making things better? And that is how racist fucks like that think of you, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what they think of you. And this country, she said it. Who's the racist here? I think you have a pretty damn good idea.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if your blood pressure isn't up to 210/190, I have not been successful. Thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon tonight here on the SHR Media Network and the Lone Star TV Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at bzepp and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Chuck me an email, bz@shrmedia.com. And I'll be gone all next week, don't forget. I'm going to try to call into Sackhead, so unfortunately next Tuesday and Thursday nights I will not be here. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also by Pratt & Whitney Engines. Thrust, you can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, and I want to thank you ever so much for being involved here, live, in podcast, in the chat room. Thanks for listening. God bless. Take care. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Come back.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night,
night,
Jim Bob.
Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.